Welcome to Ghostly.
Is Wrigley Field haunted?
Ghostly is a podcast that comes out every other week. In each episode, we take a ghost story or paranormal event and look into its complete history. Rebecca then gives us evidence proving that the story is real, and my job as the skeptic is to debate those pieces of evidence and get you, the listener, prepared to vote on if it's real or not.
If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. That was your host, Pat, and I'm your believer host, Rebecca.
Oh,
you
believer.
got to say skeptic in your intro, so I get to say believer.
Okay. So, Rebecca, I don't know if you are aware of this, but this is our 100th episode.
100.
Yeah, I mean, we've done more episodes than that, but they were bonus episodes. And this is our official 100 episode.
So amazing. It has been a crazy last, almost
3.5
years?
4
Yeah.
years?
It's insane. I can't believe we made it to 100. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, when we first started off, I didn't think we were going to be doing a 100th episode. But I prepared for it because in the episode number, I'd always put a 0 in front of it. No more zeros in front.
Ooh, yeah. If we get to 1,000, I don't know what we'll do.
Yeah, I'm not prepared for that.
It's like Y2K all over again.
Exactly. We'd have to restructure every single thing. Episode 1 would be 0001. Yeah, it's too much. I don't know.
Well, it's super exciting. Never imagined, you start a podcast and you're just kind of hoping it goes well, and you try not to think too far ahead.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to assume, but yeah, some part of us must have known because we did the 001.
I prepared for it. Yep. But only 999 episodes though. That's all I'm prepared for, I guess.
Okay. All right. Well, so don't worry. It's going to take us a while to get through 999.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, this episode is going to be about one of my favorite places in Chicago.
It is also one of my favorite places in Chicago.
And I notice you're wearing blue today.
I am wearing blue today.
Do you bleed cubby blue?
I absolutely bleed cubby blue.
You bleed?
I do. Yeah. My whole life, for sure.
Your whole life, yeah.
Yep.
Me too, and I'm a South Sider, so that's weird for me to say.
Yeah, that is weird for you to say. My family comes from the North Side, so it makes sense.
Because Chicago is divided by, the South Side. Those are the White Sox fans, and the North Side are the Cubs fans. But that started back because of the old gangsta days.
Yes, that's true. It's not really the baseball. I mean, the baseball certainly has helped it keep going, I think.
Yes.
But yes, that's true. There was the North Side gangs versus the South Side,
Absolutely,
like mobsters. Yeah. My family, we went to Cubs games every summer. It was like the big family outing.
Yeah.
Always had fun. Always on TV. Just
Absolutely.
always a big part of our lives.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but the Cubs didn't actually start off on the North Side.
I've heard tell of this, but I don't know specifics.
They started off on
to learn
the West Side.
The West Side.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which we don't really talk about much. It's more North-South for us. There is no East Side once you get to a certain point, because that's Lake Michigan.
That's the lake.
Yeah. So if you live in the lake, there is an East Side of Chicago though, but
a little bit.
We don't really talk about that much. But in this episode, we will be talking about Wrigley Field, home of the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, and who knew it's haunted?
Yeah. About that, Rebecca, I don't know about that.
Well, we'll get into it and debate it, but I'm excited to learn about Wrigley and learn about the ghosts.
Absolutely. So we need to announce the winner of our listener survey. This is the episode.
Ooh,
finally.
Yeah, we made it. It's been going on for months, and you guys have been filling these out. We're so appreciative.
Yeah, and the winner receives a coupon code for a free T-shirt.
Yeah.
So I will tell you that the entries were all numbered.
Okay.
And then I had Siri pick out
a random number between all of those numbers.
I just had her pick
and
it.
then that was the person.
Yep.
Okay.
And it is Vincent Farrell.
Woohoo, Vincent.
So,
way to go.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone so much for completing the survey. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy lives to let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to really help us in the future as we make some decisions on how we're going to grow and evolve and get to that 200 mark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's just aim for that for right now.
All right. So this episode, we're going to have a lot more shout outs than typical because we do have a bunch of comments to read.
Yes,
about
we do.
Ghostly.
Yes, we
and
do.
How Ghostly has affected people's lives.
Yeah, we put out the call.
Typically, there's only two ways to get a shout out on Ghostly. The first way is to give us a review on Apple Podcast. We always prefer those 5-star reviews, but we're willing to read any and all reviews that we receive.
Absolutely.
And the second way is to become a member on Patreon. Just go to ghostlypodcast.com and click on Patreon in the menu bar. We have a few different tiers to choose from, and they vary a lot. And there is a lot of benefits to becoming a Patreon member.
Absolutely. We've got a whole other show, Ghostly X,
yes,
which is a great companion to Ghostly. A lot of the guests and people that we have on Ghostly, we have over on Ghostly X, and we can really talk about things a little bit more in depth than we do in the episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I will tell you that tier starts at just $5.
Yeah.
You can get it all for $5 a month. And if you subscribe right now, you get all the back catalog too. So
Absolutely.
You could be listening to Ghostly for a long, long time.
Yeah. If you're just like, man, it's so hard to wait every 2 weeks for a new episode. Well, we've got like a whole bunch of episodes you can go listen to right now.
Absolutely. And we do have a new Patreon.
We do. Alicia or Alicia. Alicia. We're so happy to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to read some of our comments that we got. So we put some posts out on social media. We just asked people to share, if they had any thoughts about Ghostly, how they found us, their favorite episodes, all that good stuff. And we really appreciate those of you that responded. And you know what? If you didn't respond or didn't see the post, but you'd still like to share that, we'd love to hear it. You can always send us an email at info@ghostlypodcast.com or go on Ghostly Podcast or go on social media. Find us somewhere out there.
Yeah.
All right. So first one I've got is from Jason.
Okay.
Who says, I first ran into you guys at Parapalooza 2021 at the Roth House.
Yeah.
Ever since then, I've been an avid listener to Ghostly Podcast. And for what it's worth, I'm saying that as someone who isn't normally into podcasts at all.
Wow.
I've always liked the concept, the format, the vibe, and just the show overall. Congrats, episode 100 and beyond.
Until we get to 999.
I'm not sure if you want me to read Nick Mataragas' comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. He says, my favorite episode is episode 101, The Curse of Anna Klumsky.
Oh, yeah. No, it's not going to happen. She's not dead.
Not allowed.
Yeah.
All right. So Aaron said that Shayla told me about Ghostly a few times before I paid attention. LOL. My first and possibly favorite episode was the sleep paralysis episode.
Oh, yeah.
I love hearing other people's experiences and then having you guys debate them. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron.
We have Yvette, who says, Kevin, I nominate him for the show's medical advisor.
Oh, yeah.
Which is true. If we ever have medical stuff, Kevin will reach out.
Yeah.
Introduced me to Ghostly this past year. I am still catching up on previous episodes and enjoy the history I learn about each location featured. Ghostly is a part of my listening lineup to pass the miles.
And I believe we've met her a couple times,
I believe we have, yeah. And then we have Alice. Wow. Congratulations on the 100th episode. I remember finding you guys on Podcoin.
Oh, I miss Podcoin.
Oh, Podcoin. I listened to the very first episode and was hooked from then on. All right. And then here's Alicia. I don't remember how I found Ghostly. I have never before enjoyed podcasts, but I'm happy to have this one. Keep doing what you're doing and inventing the fun new things you add, because so far, Ghostly just gets better.
Wow.
Which is awesome.
That
Thank
is
you
really awesome.
so much for that.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it. We had a few other comments as well. So over on Instagram, we had Kay Creevy say,
Oh, you mean the Gram?
The Gram.
Yeah.
Congrats on 100 episodes. I found you guys on Apple Podcasts looking for new paranormal shows to listen to on my walks. I only recently started listening, but I love that you've done a lot of Chicago-based locations, and the friendly banter is great. While I don't have any paranormal experiences to speak of, I have an open mind and lots of curiosity. That's all you need to listen to Ghostly.
That's it.
Haunted locations are fascinating from all points of view. Keep up the great work.
Aw.
All right. So yeah, we really, again, so appreciate all of everybody's support over these last, feels like 100 years, but all of these past 100 episodes, and all of the hard work that you guys have put into to come see us. All right, now I found the last group of comments. Are you ready?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so we have Kim, who says, I found you guys on Spotify. I have listened to all your episodes and love every one of them, and look forward to hearing a new one every other week. I don't have a favorite because I love them all. Oh, thank you. And then Timothy said, one of my favorite things with Ghostly is the book club. Getting together with the hosts and other listeners after reading a spooky tale of paranormal woe and then discussing real thoughts and feelings about it is great fun. It's right up there with voting each week for the skeptics when the evidence just isn't that compelling, or really being on the fence when it can't be easily explained.
Aw.
So thank you so much, Timothy. I feel bad we've been unable to do a book club this summer, but I actually just got a book suggestion from someone at work that I'm
nice.
super excited about. So if you are in the book club, be on the lookout for an invitation and a new book soon.
How did they sign up for the book club, though?
Oh, yes. If you want to join book club, you can go to our website, ghostlypodcast.com, and go to book club.
I believe so, yeah.
I believe so, yeah. So it's right there on the website, and you just sign up. And I promise I don't email you a whole lot at all. Just every few months, you'll get an invitation to the book club. We join on Zoom, and you can show your face or not. But we love the discussions. And then we've also added a book club channel on Discord.
Yes.
So if you join Ghostly Society, every so often we put out the link for our Discord, and we'd love to have you guys join us there. And actually, I send it out with the book club invites as well.
Yeah.
So
maybe you could put it in the show notes this time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, it's super fun. It's a way to connect with other listeners.
Yeah.
And do something a little different.
I think there was one more comment, though.
Oh, yes, there is one more comment that we have from our favorite. One of our favorite, I shouldn't be picky or be favoritism. Paranormal investigators, Neil Gibbons from Graveside Paranormal.
Yes.
And he says, the best damn podcast this side of the paranormal realm.
You went southern there a little bit.
I did. That's when you say the best damn podcast. It's pretty southern.
You sound like Jasmine on Big Brother.
Big Brother.
All right, so I am really excited to hear the listener mail, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have tons of shout outs this episode.
I know, sorry.
Right?
Yeah, we got a lot going on. But it's the 100th episode, so it's,
woohoo,
little
100.
supersize.
100.
All right, so our listener mail is from Yvette.
Oh, okay.
So a little bit shorter one today.
Oh, she left one of the comments, I believe.
Yes, I think so. So thank you so much. So she says, my mother and I both experienced the same thing when falling down the stairs in my garage.
What?
Whoa. Yes, we are not graceful. It wasn't that
Well, Rebecca, you're not the most graceful person either.
No, I am not. No,
do you ever take ballet or anything?
I did for a brief period of time. It didn't last.
Maybe you need to renew that.
No, I think I'm
You
okay.
think you're okay? You're not going to black swan this?
No, definitely not. Okay, so she says, it wasn't that we saw the ghost, but both of us on separate occasions felt the sensation that as we fell, meaning tripped, missing a step, someone grabbed us under our arms and gently guided us to the floor.
Whoa.
I should have face planted into the concrete wall at the bottom of the stairs, but I landed sitting sideways, legs tucked under me, and was still holding what I was carrying in my hands. I sat there in amazement, like how the heck I should be unconscious right now. I told my mom, and she said 2 weeks earlier when she was over, the same thing happened to her, and she didn't say anything because she didn't think it was believable. I've fallen down my front stairs as well and should have crashed into the door window, and the same thing. I land sitting up, and I feel like someone is setting me down. Wow, I bet you've got a guardian angel there, or just a really friendly ghost.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, super helpful ghost. Thank you so much for sending a positive story as opposed to a scary story. We always want to hear your stories. I'm always looking for them. We have a collection, but to be honest, we need more. So you can send those to us at info@ghostlypodcast.com. Or if you go to ghostlypodcast.com, there is a contact us form right there that you can fill out and submit your story. You can also send it to us in the mail. We love snail mail. P.O. Box number 264, Geneva, Illinois 60134. And if you've forgotten all of what I told you, just go to ghostlypodcast.com and scroll to the bottom.
Yeah, it's right in the footer.
Yep.
So, since this is like a very special episode, I think I'm just really excited about your ghost story. So let's just go right to the ghost story then.
No, Pat, we cannot skip the votes.
Oh, come on.
We need the poll results.
Right. But here's the thing. If I lost the Curse of the Ninth, I'm going to be very depressed, I think. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this episode. So I don't think we should do the polls this episode.
Well, we got to dive in. It's not fair. The people took the time to vote. We got to give them their results.
Okay.
All right. In our last episode, we talked about the Curse of the Ninth. And the results were yes, 15.4%. No, 84.6%.
I don't think I've ever won with that big of a margin.
Yeah, it is a pretty big margin this time.
Wow. Wow. Well, I mean, you were a little skeptical about it.
It was a difficult one to talk about. Again, I think they may have cursed themselves a little bit as part of it. What was the rating, though?
Yeah, the rating was 2.15, so that's really low.
That is low.
And in Ghostly X, we do go over all the comments that people have left. So if you're interested in hearing the comments of others, which they get really funny sometimes.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of fun with the comments.
Yeah, exactly. So that's in Ghostly X as well.
Yes.
All right. You ready for your ghost story, Rebecca?
Absolutely. Oh, and just as a reminder, after this episode today, go to ghostlypodcast.com/polls and tell us what you think about Wrigley.
Absolutely. And we post that on all social media too, on like the day after the episode comes out, where you can go ahead and just click on the link.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
All right, here's our ghost story.
It's time for a spooky tale from Rebecca.
I can't believe it. I got the call. I'm going to the big leagues. Now, they say it's only for a few weeks until the player I'm replacing comes back. But who knows? Maybe I'll wow them, and then they'll want to keep me. This is my chance at the big time. It was such a late call after yesterday's game, and they realized that the guy wasn't going to be out for at least a few weeks. So they flew me here, and I'm on the team tomorrow. I am so excited. I told the driver just to take me to the field. He said, but it's the middle of the night. I said, I don't care. I need to walk into Wrigley and feel the history and feel the weight of it so that tomorrow I'll be ready. After they dropped me off, I talked to the overnight crew and asked them to let me in. They just laughed and said, sure. It sounds like I'm not the first player brought up for the minors to do this. I walked all around and eventually made my way to the bullpen. Just looking at where I'll be warming up and getting the call, I hope. As I was standing there, imagining what that next day is going to be like, the craziest thing happened. The bullpen phone rang. Like the phone the manager uses when he calls for a new pitcher. I don't know what came over me, but I just decided to answer it. Hello, I asked. I listened, but there was nothing but static. I hung up after a few seconds. I figured maybe it was just some glitch or something. But then the same thing happened again. And a third time. I started to get mad. I figured the guards were having a laugh at me, so I just decided to leave and go find them. As I was walking down the halls, I swear I heard someone whisper my name. Kyle. Hello? I called. No answer. It was dark and I was starting to get a little freaked out, I must admit. So I just walked faster until I got to the front office. When I got there, I said, good job, guys. You really freaked me out. If this is the hazing you guys do, it's definitely different. The two guys behind the desk just looked at me confused. What? I told them what happened. Understanding dawned on the older guy's face. Oh, he said, you met one of our resident ghosts. He likes to call the bullpen, like he used to do as manager. And sometimes he likes to greet new players by calling their names. Don't worry, he's harmless. I don't know if he was pulling my leg, and I didn't really want to stay around to find out. I decided maybe I should get some sleep and see if I can forget this crazy first day on my new team.
Wow. So was that any actual player that you took this from? Or?
No, I mean, I used Kyle,
Yeah.
but I didn't necessarily have any particular player in mind.
All right.
So just a generic, kind of newbie young guy
Yeah,
coming
just
up.
totally made up story then.
No, not a made up story based on something that actually happens.
No, come on. That's ridiculous.
Well, we'll get to it.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we will do the Pat Facts.
Pat Facts. Pat, what do creepy stories, funny ghost memes, and inside ghostly information have in common?
My life.
Well, yes, but no, it's also Ghostly Society on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that too, of course. But aren't all ghostly listeners in Ghostly Society?
Not yet.
What? I mean, that means that they're missing out on all my jokes.
Yeah, they are. And missing out on chatting and sharing with other listeners and us, of course.
We love talking to our listeners. If you haven't yet, you should consider joining our private group on Facebook called Ghostly Society.
Let's hope now they will.
Unless they're a woman in white.
Uh-oh.
Pat's Facts. From a skeptic point of view. Pat's Facts. He presents it all to you. Pat's Facts.
All right. The Pat Facts this episode are brought to you by Tarot by Ta.
Ta is a professional tarot card reader with over 20 years of experience.
And he reads at numerous public events. He's got such a busy schedule right now. He reads at private parties, and he does personal appointments throughout the greater Chicagoland area as well.
He also does readings worldwide using online services like Zoom.
Oh, that's really good because, I mean...
Not everybody can come to events.
I mean, you should,
in Chicago,
though.
if you can, though.
And the best part of it is he's a hashtag Team Skeptic.
I forgive him for that.
But, I mean, it is weird that he is a tarot reader and he's a skeptic. But, he just says that he can't explain why sometimes some of the stuff is just on the money,
Absolutely.
And he also is starting a new podcast. He's getting his promos out right now. But as soon as he gets a promo that we can play on here, I gladly will play it too.
Yeah. And you can find out more about Ta and his podcast by visiting his Facebook page at facebook.com/tarot by Ta, PTAH.
Absolutely. And you'll put that in the show notes, I'm sure.
Yes.
All right. So it's time to get into the Pat Facts. So at the site where Wrigley Field sits today at Clark and Addison, it was the home of the Chicago Lutheran Theological Seminary.
Oh, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's like so much just like housing around there now. I just assumed it was like homes.
I mean, it is like a big residential area.
Or like a park or something.
Except for one of the streets that it's on is, that's like where everyone goes to go to the bars and stuff.
Well, yeah, that's true. It's a lot of, there's businesses there on Addison.
Yeah. And there's no like parking lot.
Yeah, no, there's not a lot of parking.
No, so you have to use some of the local areas and stuff. There was a Taco Bell across the street that used to have parking, but now that's closed. So
yeah, a lot of people, you park a little bit of ways, and then you take a bus.
Yeah, or you could take the L too.
Yeah.
So the Hillbrandt coal factory was across the street.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't. Like, I can't even imagine what that would have looked like. And even before the Chicago Lutheran Theological Seminary, it was St. Mark's Church.
Okay. Well, so it's holy ground for the Cubs. I gotcha.
At the time the seminary was established, the area was located in a quiet, relatively undeveloped section of the Lakeview district of Chicago's North Side.
That's true. I mean, the city that we know today was much smaller back then. That was almost like suburbs. I mean, not really, but it was pretty close.
Yeah. But what happened was the 1900s, the L got extended to this area. So the L is like taking the subway in New York or something like that, except it's above ground. It's elevated.
It's elevated. Yep. So it's the subway, but it's above ground. You got
it.
it.
And a lot of Chicagoans use that to get all over Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
You can get almost anywhere in Chicago just by taking that. You might have to take a bus or something when you get off, but it gets you pretty close.
Definitely.
So it extended to this area, and the area started to be more developed. So more homes were developed in there, some businesses and stuff. So it started to take on more of an urban character. And the seminary decided to abandon its plans to develop the area and just wanted to sell it at that point.
Well, I'm guessing they were also probably getting some really good offers at that point, at least pretty decent ones.
Maybe they actually moved to Melrose Park.
Okay.
And then closed in 1967, I believe.
Okay.
But it's funny because Melrose Park is pretty built up too.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, wherever they go, things were starting to take shape.
They know how to pick the hot spot.
But I mean, you have to remember this is after the Chicago fire.
Yes.
And everything. So Chicago was becoming this major metropolis then.
Mm-hmm.
So as early as 1905, rumors started to take shape that a new structure was going to be built at that site. A minor league baseball was interested in building a stadium at the location as part of their strategy to become a major league baseball team.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty bold place for a minor league team to build a site.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe
it
not
was
as
just
much
developing,
back then,
so.
but yeah.
Yeah, but the Chicago market was one of the most lucrative in the country because of the Chicago fire, and was already occupied by the National League's Chicago Cubs and the American League's White Sox. Once this was out in the newspaper, though, their plans kind of blew up.
Oh.
They weren't really expecting anyone to know about it, and they didn't want anyone to know until they started building.
Oh, I see. I
So
see.
they kind
All
of
a
pulled
sudden,
out of it.
Oh, I see. They
Yeah.
thought they could be a big surprise, and then maybe people kind of made it more difficult for them. It's
Absolutely.
Chicago. We don't want you to have the permit. You're not going to have the permit.
Well, so then there was this thing called the Federal League.
So we have the National League, the American League, and the Federal League.
But this was still a minor league, though.
Oh,
too.
a minor league. Okay.
Yeah. So in 1913, it's kind of started up.
Okay.
And it was kind of a minor league. And they had franchises in 6 cities, including Chicago.
Okay.
The Chicago franchise was known as the Chi Feds, or Chicago Whales, actually.
Oh, weird.
And they played its home game at the baseball grounds at DePaul University.
I have been by those baseball grounds many times,
Yeah?
having gone to DePaul.
Could you imagine like an actual real big baseball game being held there?
No. No, I'm sure it was different back then. I'm sure there were more stands and different things, but that's cool.
Yeah. And so they really started to take hold.
Okay.
Right. So they wanted to become a major league, and the current president that they had wasn't really going to make that happen. So they decided to bring on a new president, one by the name of James A. Gilmore, who was a wealthy Chicago businessman, and he made his money in coal.
Which is right across from.
Yeah, exactly. And because he had all these connections, Gilmore had made it a lot easier for Chicago then to get situated in this. So he brought on William Walker, who was a fish wholesaler, and Charles A. Wigman, who made his money in local lunch counters, which was like the 1900s version of fast food.
Okay, like early 1900s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
early 1900s.
Yeah.
Wigman became the club president and the main force behind the team from that point onward, with Walker willing to remain in the background and Gilmore tending to all the legal issues. Charles Wigman, known as Lucky Charlie, hired his architect Zachary Taylor Davis to design the park, which was ready for baseball by the home opener April 23rd, 1914. Zachary Taylor Davis was also the person who designed another Chicago ballpark named Comiskey Park, which was the home of the White Sox from 1910 to 1990.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was actually opened before 1910. That's like a whole nother history there.
It's another episode maybe we'll get to, but okay, so that's amazing that the same guy designed both of the big Chicago parks.
And a lot of the Sox fans hate Wrigley too, because they think it's like a dump. That's what they call it. Which I actually really liked old Comiskey Park too.
Okay. Well, yeah, that makes sense.
The Chicago Whales, also, as I said, known as the Chicago Feds, came in second in the Federal League rankings in 1914 and won the league championship in 1915.
This is so interesting that we are already to 1915 talking about Wrigley Field, and we haven't even talked about the Cubs yet.
It's not even called Wrigley Field.
That's true. And we've mentioned that the Cubs exist, but they were not. Yeah, the stadium didn't exist yet. It just got built, and it was not for them yet.
Yeah, it was actually Wigman Park.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, because, he owned it, so he called it by his own name. So it reportedly cost $250,000 to build and took just 2 months to complete and had a capacity of 14,000 people.
Oh, wow.
So let me tell you, though, Major League Baseball was not happy about this, and they tried to make them have to stop their plans. They did a lot of different things. And one of the things that they did is Wigman signed a lease of the land for 99 years.
Okay.
So it was just expired recently, actually. But the lease said that he couldn't build anything on the land that cost, or he couldn't do renovations of more than $70,000.
Oh, geez.
And building a $250,000 stadium actually went over that amount.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. The Cubs moved into Wrigley in 1915. So now we're talking about the Cubs.
Just like a couple year,
Yeah.
like there was like 1 year where it wasn't the Cubs, and then
Absolutely, yeah.
they moved in. Okay.
But they only moved in there because the Federal League folded.
Oh, the whole league went down.
Yeah. And Wigman formed a syndicate that included the chewing gum manufacturer William Wrigley Jr.
Mm.
And they bought the Cubs from Charles P. Taft for $500,000.
Wow. So they really believed in this park.
I guess so. I mean, $500,000 in those days, that was a lot of money.
Absolutely.
In 1918, Wrigley actually acquired the controlling interest in the Cubs. And in November of 1926, he renamed the park Wrigley Field. It was because during the Depression, Wrigley, the gum company, was actually losing money. So he decided to invest more in the Cubs.
Oh, diversify.
Yeah, and that sold more gum eventually.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why in 1926, he renamed the park Wrigley Field. But between 1920 and 1926, Wrigley was actually named Cubs Park.
Oh, I like that name. I mean, of course, Wrigley is classic. We get it.
But you know what, Rebecca? It's actually the second stadium named Wrigley Field. The LA ballpark with the same name opened in 1925.
Oh, weird.
So they missed that by a year,
Okay.
calling it Wrigley Field. Between 1921 and 1970, it was also the home of the Chicago Bears of the National Football League. And it was the home of the Chicago Cardinals, now the Arizona Cardinals. That's why we hate them so much.
Oh, it's funny. Okay, so in my brain at first, when you were talking about the Cardinals, my mind went to St. Louis Cardinals, that's baseball.
No, we're talking about the National
We're talking
Football
about
League.
I don't think of Wrigley associated with football, but it was a football stadium.
Yeah. And here's the thing, though. There was problems for football players, though. Particularly, one of their concerns were the brick walls that were often just inches from the playing field.
Well, the brick walls are pretty iconic there, and
Yeah.
I can see that would be not so good. I mean, how many times do you see football players go off onto the side?
Yeah, absolutely. And they would hit a brick wall then, literally.
Right, or you score a touchdown, you're running, and you just...
They would get a concussion, and that's outside of the field. So Bill Veek, also known as Sport Shirt Bill.
Nice nickname.
Yeah. He planted the ivy.
Hey there, I'm Sports Shirt Bill. Sorry, we went with the Southern accent today.
He was actually the son of one of the owners, too.
Oh, well, there you go.
But he planted the ivy in 1937, and that's iconic of Wrigley. But the idea actually came from Perry Stadium in Indianapolis.
Well, it's fun to play with the ivy. If you haven't watched a game at Wrigley or been there, it's fun because it catches the balls for you sometimes.
Yeah, so here's an interesting fact about that, okay? So at first, when it was Wignham Stadium, when it first opened in 1914, there was too many home runs there. So they actually had to move the wall back.
Oh.
Yeah. And when they did that, they demolished the seminary that was still, they still had the building there.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
But they were still getting too many runs because if it would hit off the wall, they would say that that's a run then.
Oh, really?
So when they put the ivy in there, if the ball hits the ivy, it is considered a double.
Yes.
So they don't get a home run, but that's only if the player does like a sign, like puts his hand up or something like that, and
Like,
doesn't
it's caught.
and doesn't search for the ball. If he starts searching for the ball, it's considered live, and they could run all the way to home.
Oh, interesting. So if you play at Wrigley as a player, you have to know, like, if the ball lands in the ivy and like doesn't bounce back out.
Yeah.
Right? Like it just lands in the ivy, and because it could take you a while if you're trying to search through this ivy to find it. They just say, okay, you know.
I mean, but imagine the home field advantage then.
Right.
Because our guys all know this.
They all know this. Yeah, no, it's super interesting. And then obviously in the beginning of the season, it's not grown in yet, but then by, you know, the start, the real summer, you know, it's all ready to go. Catching balls.
Wrigley Field is nicknamed
the Friendly Confines.
You've heard it called that.
I have, of course.
And it's a phrase that was made popular by Mr. Cub himself, Hall of Famer, shortstop, and first baseman Ernie Banks.
Ernie Banks.
Let's play two.
The
team and stadium were later bought in 1981 by the Tribune Company, which was good and bad.
Yes.
Wrigley Field reportedly sold for $600,000.
Ooh.
So that's not that much for that.
No, especially back then. Yeah.
I mean, if I had the money, I would have bought it.
Well, they hadn't won since 1908.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wrigley Field didn't have lights for night games until 1988, and that's one of the changes that the Tribune Company brought in. But what's interesting, though, is originally they were supposed to install lights in 1942, but because of the attack on Pearl Harbor, the owner, Philip K. Wrigley, donated the lights to the war efforts.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So throughout much of its history, the stadium has underwent renovations. The first occurred just days after the opening game in 1914, with the outfield walls being moved back, like I was talking about, to decrease the number of home runs. More notably, in 1927 and 1928, an upper deck was added, and in 1937 to 38, the firm Halliburd and Root created a boomerang-shaped bleachers section. And what's interesting, too, is in the 1927, 1928, when they added the upper deck, they actually brought on Zachary Taylor Davis again to do that.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, because he did such a great job, I guess.
Yeah.
The neighborhood around the stadium is known as Wrigleyville, and it's also become a lot more developed since then, especially from the 1990s. Although home to numerous bars and restaurants, the area was largely residential, which added to the stadium's appeal, but also resulted in resistance to some proposed changes. Notably in 1988, when they installed the lights, only after threatening to move were the Cubs allowed to add the lights to Wrigley. And that's because the Tribune did that.
Right. Well, people didn't want the lights because it was, you know, like the neighborhood. And they didn't want, you know, night games.
I mean,
and
it is
people around.
literally like a house across the street.
Right.
And they have a bunch of rooftops where you can rent that out and party up there on the rooftops and watch the game. And it's like you're in the stadium.
It is. Now they've done some deals with that because it started to get where the, you know, of course the team wants their share of the money, and you know, it's all complicated having a baseball field in the middle of the city. I think if you haven't seen it, it's weird.
Yeah, it
like,
is. Yeah.
You're used to a big sports stadium being something that's like a little bit out in, you know, like an open area. No, like you don't, it is absolutely confined on all sides by the city. There is no, like, they've actually put up like some little spaces around it, but no, like you are literally just like, driving, you know, going to work, doing your thing, and like, oh, there's the stadium. Like, it's just right there. Like, and even the Sox park doesn't feel that way. It still feels like a little bit separate. You know, it has a parking garage and like other stuff, you know.
I mean, most of them have parking garages.
Right. And this is just...
And they had an opportunity to put a huge parking garage in. They would have made a fortune on this, but they decided to make a little mall.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And I will say, like, it is, like, that neighborhood has definitely become kind of like a very pricey, very nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, to live right around the park is, you get a lot of people leaving the games.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Walking drunk down the street, and, they're not always the best.
Yeah.
But it's still a very wealthy neighborhood, very popular neighborhood.
Absolutely. So I did mention that the Chicago Tribune was actually good and bad for Wrigley Field,
Mm-hmm.
because before they sold, they were entertaining the idea of renaming the field.
Oh, yes, like selling the rights or something. Okay.
Yeah, like we have U.S. Cellular Field for the Sox, which I don't even know what it's called
I was
now.
just going to say it's probably called something else now.
We just call it Hell in the Cell here
Yes.
in Chicago. But yeah, so they were going to do that just like all the rest of them are, and we want to keep our names. When they renamed Sears Tower, everybody's upset by that still.
What's funny, though, is both Sears Tower and Wrigley are, in fact, named after companies. Like, it's not like they're some, like, just regular name. They're named after companies. We just want those companies.
Yeah,
we
just
don't
those
want other
companies.
companies
Yep.
as our
Mhm.
name.
After the Cubs and Wrigley were purchased by the Ricketts family in 2009, a major renovation was proposed that drew strong objection from some residents. Ultimately, however, much of the plan was approved. Upgrades included a massive jumbotron that was unveiled over the left field bleachers in 2015, and the area immediately around the stadium was also the site of numerous construction projects, including a hotel.
Yeah, I remember the Jumbotron, and then they have like a little like ad things down like that are behind the hitters
Yeah.
and stuff. That was so controversial for everybody. I mean, again, we just want like old school. It's one of the if not the only ballpark that has a
Manual
scoreboard.
Yeah, absolutely. Where they actually have to have a person that puts the score in, like not at a computer. They have to go up there and do it.
Walk up there,
Yep.
take down the number, put the
Yep.
new number in.
Every time
Every
something
time.
happens. Yeah.
It's really cool.
And
It's an experience.
it definitely is. I was going to say something else too, and I forget what it was.
Have you ever sat in the bleachers?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I have. I got really sunburned. And they lost like 16-0 that game. And
But you didn't care because you were in the bleachers.
no, I left early.
Oh.
I was way too sunburned. And when they start losing by more than 9, it's like, I don't,
Well,
I don't know.
the bleachers are like the fun seats. That's where the college
Yeah.
kids sit and all that. I mean, my family, we were not bleacher people. We were.
Well, and it's not family friendly in the bleachers.
No,
too.
it is not. You would not
Yeah.
take your children there, most likely,
Oh,
unless they were older.
I remember what I was going to say is that so when that renovation was made in 2015, there were some of the houses over there that had the rooftops that were allowing people to visit that weren't giving the Cubs the proper amount of money.
Mhm.
So what they did was they put a big billboard to block them.
Yep.
So they couldn't see it until they paid, and then they took down the billboard.
Yeah, very smart.
Yeah, very smart, but evil, but at the same time, right? It's like...
Can't share the profits.
Yeah.
Nope.
All right. Well, that's all I have for the history. I mean, there's a ton more history about it, but that's all that everyone's going to care about. Really.
Yeah, I mean, it's the history of the field itself. Obviously, we have a little bit of Cubs history in there. I mean, to do the Cubs history would be a whole other thing.
Yeah. When they lost one of the World Series that they were in, or actually, no, when they came in last place in 1925 was the first time that the Cubs came in last place.
Wow.
But it wasn't that bad because there was only 8 teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Cubs are on, they've been around a long time, but they have not always been at Wrigley. So it's interesting to hear the story of the building.
Absolutely. Do you have anything to add?
No, not anymore for the history. It's just that I love the stadium. I love seeing the Cubs, and I am very happy, and I feel very lucky that I got to be here in 2016 when they won the World Series, because there were a lot of my relatives that lived their whole lives and never got to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I actually cried the day after because I started thinking about it, and it was, I mean, they hadn't won a World Series in 100 years, and I remember my grandpa, that's all that he wanted.
Yeah, it was 108 years.
I mean, people don't understand that when it comes to the Cubs, they take baseball serious. I mean, really serious. Some other teams, it's more just like a casual fun thing to do, but they take this very serious. And yeah, it just broke my heart to think about, you know, my grandpa not being able to see it, but I got to.
Yeah, my grandfather and my my great uncle, such a Cubs fan. And you know, actually, just one other thing about the Cubs that's interesting is that the Cubs have fans all over the country, the U.S. Not I'm sure the world as well, but one of the big reasons is that for many years they were played, their games were played on WGN, which was one of the few kind of national stations like that to play live sports. So you could be in other parts of the country and actually watch the Cubs.
But WGN has always been a Chicago station.
Oh yeah, Chicago based, but it was broadcast so widely. Like normally you wouldn't, you know, you'd only see your local team's games, but this was one team that went out kind of almost nationally. I mean, not everywhere, but a lot of places. So wherever you travel, wherever the Cubs go to play, they always have actually quite a few of their fans at the games.
What did you think of the Ferris Bueller moment in Wrigley Field there?
Oh, great, of course. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm glad he was a Cubs fan.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right, when we return, we will get to the debate. Throughout our time doing Ghostly, we've met a lot of great people. People that don't always fit into our episode schedule. And even when they do, we try to focus on the topic of the episode, and we don't really get a chance to get to know them as a person.
That's why we came up with the idea of Ghostly X. Ghostly X will come out on the weeks when there is no regular Ghostly episode.
And it'll have interviews with amazing people and listener feedback from previous episodes. We also can't wait to talk about the paranormal in the news.
We're very proud of this project, and we can't wait to share it with you.
Ghostly X is a Patreon exclusive. You can start listening now by going to ghostlypodcast.com and clicking on the Patreon link in the menu bar to become a patron and help support Ghostly by listening to our brand new show.
All right, we are back in time to debate.
Time for a debate.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right, so our first piece of evidence is, so we've got 3 ghosts today. So our first ghost is Charles Grimm.
Ooh, okay.
Grimm.
Yeah,
it's a great name for a ghost, right? All right, so this is what I based my story on earlier. So it's reported that security guards who work the overnight shift or the graveyard shift will hear the Wrigley bullpen phones ring randomly. So those are like not regular phones, right? Like that's like when you're watching a baseball game and you see a guy like pick up the phone, you know, to get
the red
new
phone.
pitcher. Yeah. So legend has it that these phantom phone calls are from Charles Grimm, who was managing the Cubs when they got swept by the Yankees in the 1932 World Series.
Oh, and by the way, Babe Ruth played in that game.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So people think that Grimm is still making pitching changes from the afterlife. It's also said that guards have spotted his ghostly image, ding, 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 pacing the halls, and that people hear their names being whispered from the darkness. So one explanation people give for why he's unable to leave the grounds is that actually his ashes or his remains are housed in a private, I'm assuming ashes, housed in a private box in left center field. So he's like buried on the grounds. Remember, this was a church, man. This is holy ground. And now there's someone buried there.
All right. So my opinion on this is that, first of all, the phones, it could just be an electrical thing, if it actually happened at all. A lot of times, I mean, it's a pretty big field. They could be hearing that, but they might be hearing something else. And it's also right on a residential street. Someone could be outside there and get a cell phone call, and they could hear that over, because I don't know if
it was just cell phones though. Plus it sounds really different. And like they hear it ringing. They're right there.
Okay. Well, it could be electrical problems too with that.
But like, wouldn't that happen all the time then? Like you'd think they'd fix that then. Like, cause electrical problems wouldn't just happen at night.
Well, also I'm wondering if this actually has a phone number.
No. My guess is it's all like internal, you know what I mean? Like I don't think you could call this from like a regular phone.
I wonder.
I would be very surprised.
So I have doubts about that. And also, here's the deal about his mortal remains that are there. That is speculation. There's never been any documented evidence saying that actually his remains are there in this private box in left center field. I've never seen this box.
I don't know. I mean, there's some reports that he was cremated and his ashes were scattered at Wrigley Field. So maybe they weren't buried in a box, but
yeah,
that's what they say.
But again, hearing your names being called, whispered from the darkness, again, it is on a regular residential street. You could hear people talking outside. Especially if it's quiet in the field, you could hear everything.
I guess, but like you'd think they'd hear that all the time, and then just to, like hear.
Well, you're not telling me how often they're hearing this. Was this just once?
I don't know. I don't think so. It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like something.
So maybe it's happening all the time, and people are hearing this all the time. And that's the reason why they're hearing it. So I'm going to go with a 0 on this one.
A 0. Yeah. All right. This one I'm going to go with a 6.
A 6. Okay. That's pretty high.
Yeah. It seems plausible to me, especially if he's buried there.
Okay.
All right. So our next one is somebody that, oh man, it pains me. I hope he's at peace. But it's Steve Goodman.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you are a Cubs fan or just a fan of good music, you have heard of Steve Goodman.
Well, he's like folk music. So not just good music. I mean, I love folk music. So.
I love folk music.
And I love Steve Goodman.
And I love Steve Goodman, yeah. He was, so he was a musician who was also a very big Cubs fan. And so he is another one who asked to have his ashes spread at Wrigley.
Yeah.
So... again, he was a singer and a songwriter, and because he was a Cubs fan, he wrote many songs about the Cubs. One of them is the song that you hear at the end of every Cubs home game, "Go Cubs Go."
Yeah.
Especially when they win.
Yeah.
And he passed away, unfortunately, from leukemia in 1984. And he asked to, again, have his ashes spread at Wrigley. He wrote, quote, "Let my ashes blow in a beautiful snow from the prevailing 30-mile-an-hour southwest wind when my last remains go flying over the left field wall." So the Cubs granted his last wish, and his ashes were scattered on Wrigley Field. Since his remains were laid to rest at the field, fans have reported seeing his ghost sitting in the seats behind home plate enjoying the ball game as he did in life. He also wrote a song. It's like a dying Cubs fan's last wish or something like that. So sad.
And he wrote, I bleed Cubby Blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will tell you, with baseball, there is a lot of superstitious stuff going on. His remains were scattered in Wrigley Field. I will say that. But I think this is more superstition, and they want to believe that more than it's actually true. Because to have him there, as this iconic Cubs fan, it's like Bill Murray and Eddie Vedder. Mm-hmm. When they die, I mean, people are going to see them there too, because it's just something that we want. It's something that we desire so much so. And unfortunately, I don't think it's true, but maybe it's fortunate for him because the Cubs are having a pretty rough season this
year.
Go.
Though they've gotten better lately. I noticed they've moved up in the standings. But yeah, it's hard because again, he's such an integral part of the game, especially because they play his song and everyone knows, his songs.
It's funny though, in his songs too, he is like a big time supporter of the Cubs, but also he disses the Cubs in a lot of his songs.
Well, that's what we do.
Yeah,
we're lovable losers.
I was going to say that. I mean, Wrigley Field is the house of joy for a lot of Cubs fans, but a lot of sorrow has been spent there as well.
Absolutely. All right. So, what's your rating for Steve Goodman's ghost?
I'm going to go a 1 on this one.
Aw, you got to give him a 1
for Steve.
Steve. I am going to give this one a 5.
Oh, okay.
It's a little lower for me, just because I really couldn't find any stories of who sees this ghost and when
I've never
do they
seen any
see
pictures or anything like that of it.
It's not one that I actually had ever heard of before doing the research.
Yeah.
Otherwise, obviously I knew of him, but I did not hear anything about his ghost being there.
Okay.
All right. So our next one is probably the most famous ghost at Wrigley.
Okay.
So both Cubs fans and Sox fans would remember this ghost, Harry Caray.
Holy cow.
Mm-hmm. He had, if you've ever seen the pictures, or you've ever seen him on Saturday Night Live or whatever, he's the old guy with the big, thick, black rimmed glasses.
And he was drunk all the time.
Drunk. I think Will Ferrell did a Harry Caray impression.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he did that commercial that he's a Cubs fan and he's a Buds man.
Yes, he
Budweiser.
did. Budweiser.
Yeah.
And he would sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" during the 7th inning stretch. So he was larger than life. I always remember him growing up. He died in 1998, but legend has it that he hasn't left the ballpark. Workers and fans alike have claimed to see his ghost sitting in the press box where he spent most of his time. Fans have also claimed to see an unexplainable mist that brings about a big feeling, I'm assuming, of joy or of drunkenness. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And they attribute this mist to Harry Caray, who was he was known for interacting with the crowd. He really was Wrigley for so many years. I mean, if you he's who made you excited to be there and pepped you up and kept you going, even though they were losing.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as Harry Caray goes, and this is not any slight on him, he was the announcer for several different baseball teams in his life.
But he was most known for the Cubs.
Yeah, but I mean, and I think he might have been happy about his time with the Cubs, but not so much so that if someone had offered him a big chunk of change to go someplace else, I think he would have taken it. I'm just saying he's probably in it for the money, which is okay. Now, if it was Ron Santos or something like that, I might feel differently because Ron Santos, I mean, the poor guy, lost his leg, lost everything. I mean, and he kept being a Cubs fan, and he kept wanting to be there, and he took less money than any of the other announcers because he just wanted to be there.
Yeah.
So bad. If it was him, I would think differently, but it's Harry. I mean, I don't know. I have not seen any pictures of Harry Caray at Wrigley Field except for the statue outside that they have for him, which he looks drunk in the statue too, which is fitting. I'm not a Harry Caray hater. In fact, I really enjoyed listening to him announce the games and watching his theatrics throughout the game. But I don't think that there's any credibility to this story.
So this is the only story that, and I feel bad because I can't I can't remember enough details to make this great. But someone that I used to date he didn't work at Wrigley, but some reason he was there in the press box a few times for something. And I remember him telling me that there were stories about Harry, and how he would be around, that people always sensed him around.
Again, it is the superstition of baseball mixed with the nostalgic idea of it that makes people want to do this. And your ex didn't say that he saw him there. He just said that he heard stories. And there has been stories. I will give it that. But I don't know where these stories originate from. It could be one person and then it just spread to all these other people that saw this thing. And if they were now when they are seeing him, though, I would imagine that they're not seeing him they're not in the press box with him. They're looking up in the press box. Yeah,
that would be my guess. Yeah.
And that press box is very I could definitely see that you would see something in there. If I would definitely think that you could see something in that press box from down on the field.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, and it makes sense to me that you would think it would be.
And you're just going to say it's Harry Caray. It could be anything. It could be a shadow of something. It doesn't have to be anything. And it's not a shadow person, though. But I'm just saying.
All right. So what's your rating?
Oh, unfortunately, Harry, I'm going to go 0 on this one.
Whoa. All right. This one's a 7 for me.
7?
This
wow.
one's definitely the most believable of all of them. Now, this last thing I wanted to chat about. It's not a ghost, but I just think we should bring it up, is the curse.
Oh, yeah.
The Billy Goat curse, just because I think most listeners or a lot of listeners may have heard of the Billy Goat curse.
Well, I mean, you might have heard of Billy Goats if you watched Saturday Night Live and you saw the sketch where they were doing the cheeseburger thing.
It's a really old one. I mean, I've never seen, I certainly didn't see it live when it was first on Saturday Night Live, but if you see any reruns or best of or whatever, you might have seen that sketch. But supposedly But
it's based off of actually a restaurant called Billy Goats.
Exactly, an actual restaurant.
Which has amazing burgers. And me and Mondo noticed that when we got burgers there, it looked like they were more raw when we took them from the person, but they started to cook as we went back to the table.
Well, that's what happens with hamburger.
Yeah, exactly.
You let it rest and it still keeps cooking. So in 1945, the Billy Goat Tavern owner, William Sinus. Yeah, Sinus. That makes sense. Basically brought a goat or tried to bring a goat to Wrigley Field. Because he was this is my pet goat named Murphy. And we're here. We're in the playoffs. We're making things happen. And during Game 4 of the World Series that year, they kicked them out of the stadium because they said the goat was bothering fans. So supposedly...
So the goat was allowed in there at other times, though.
Right. They were allowed in for other games. It was just that particular game
that's
for
not
whatever
how,
reason.
It's not how I had heard the tale, but okay. Yeah.
I don't know. This is Wikipedia, so
Okay.
take it for what it's worth. But supposedly, then when he was leaving, he's declared, "Them Cubs, they ain't gonna win no more."
You're going back south. This is a
I know, it's
Chicago
Chicago.
one.
You say it in a Chicago way.
You damn Cubs, you're never going to win nothing.
There you go. So that basically is like, that was the curse. And so they didn't win that year. And they had many chances throughout the years where they would be in, the playoffs or even get to the World Series.
What year was it where they like won the pennant and they didn't win the pennant. They were about to win the pennant. And what year was that? Was that 1990 something?
I think it might have even been in like the 2000s, I think.
Yeah.
That was it. So it was like 2003, I think, 2002, 2003. It's the Bartman incident is what he's talking
about. Which we forgive him now.
We don't blame him. It was the curse that made him do it.
Okay.
So like over the years, many people have tried to reverse the curse, but obviously it never worked. And supposedly in 2016, we read a thing that there was like a vegetarian restaurant that put up signs all over that were like, don't eat meat, break the curse, don't eat meat, essentially. But that was never widely publicized or anything. Honestly, they just, for whatever reason, finally got all their stuff together. I think the Ricketts were finally willing to put some money into the team.
Yeah.
And they won in 2016, the World Series, and probably won't win again for another 100 years.
But as far as the curse goes, what are your thoughts of that?
I can't say that it's not.
The Bartman thing was extremely weird. I will say that.
It really was.
We were like, I think it was 6 outs away from, no, it was 4 outs away from getting into the World Series, winning the pennant.
Yeah.
And something went wrong. And then it was like, it just kept going wrong. It just like,
there's no reason that should have like turned everybody.
It definitely seemed like that at that year. But I don't.
There were many other years like that. To me, it seems like, I don't know what it was. There was something about, I think it was at least 100-year curse, and then it took them another 8 years to get themselves together. A lot of things had to align, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was a little bit of a curse.
I don't believe that there's a curse, but this is not what we're debating.
No, we're debating the ghosts, but I didn't want to neglect the curse story because I know that is a thing for a lot of Cubs fans.
Yeah. So what is your overall rating as far as Wrigley Field being haunted?
I'm going to say a 6. So that kind of takes me in the middle. I had a 5, a 6, and a 7. So I think possibly a little haunted, but not super haunted.
I think of all of the, there's been a lot of faces to the Cubs, right? You have Ernie Banks, Ron Santos. You have a lot of these people that devoted their whole entire lives to the Cubs, and they're not there.
Well, no. Most places that are haunted, not everybody that's died that's associated with them is there.
But these 3 people,
hopefully these are a little bit more at peace.
Steve Goodman, the reason why I gave him 1 is because, okay, that is a legit face of the Cubs at one point, but there's been a lot more that have died that have had more claim to Wrigley than Steve Goodman even.
Well, again, we don't know why some people end up as ghosts and some don't. So,
well, that's why I can't believe. All right, so I'm gonna go 0 on this one then.
This one, all right.
Yeah. All right, so that brings us to the closing arguments. This is our last chance to convince you to vote our way. We are each given 1 minute of uninterrupted time, and we will time each other on our cell phones because Rebecca is like the Chicago Black Sox likes to cheat.
That is not true at all.
All right. Are you ready, Rebecca?
Yes.
All right. Here we go.
All right. So, it's interesting. I wasn't totally sure about Wrigley being haunted before doing my research. And I'm still not like, this is, oh my gosh, you should be scared to go there. It's so haunted kind of place. But learning that it was built on a church, on a seminary, and that people have been buried there or had their ashes spread there. And then there's these reports of just a few of these guys, kind of hanging around. And again, the guess is that it's these guys. It could be other players or other people as well. Anyways, it just doesn't surprise me that there would be some figures, some people still hanging around there. It's a place steeped in history. It's a land steeped in history. And I just wouldn't be surprised if there were some spirits hanging around.
Okay, well, you had 3 seconds left.
Thank you.
So I'm going to take your 3 seconds.
Hey. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Go.
All right. So as I had already said, baseball is filled with a bunch of superstition. People will not change their socks if they're in a winning spree, or they won't change their underwear, or they do different things. And if they don't do this exactly right, then it is considered bad luck for the team. With this much superstition, it's really hard to say that any of this stuff is factual. I believe it's nostalgic. I believe we want these people to be there. We want a Steve Goodman to be there for that experience, for us to experience him like our parents did, or our parents' parents. And I just don't see there being any possibility the place is haunted. I've been there several times. And besides the spirits that are being drunk by people, there's no other spirits there.
Never seen a ghost, huh?
Never, ever, ever. I've seen a lot of things at Wrigley. I've never seen a ghost.
Okay.
So thank you so much for listening. Please share us with your friends and family, as word of mouth is our best advertisement. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. And if you haven't, this is our 100th episode. Hit it.
Yeah, don't miss any more episodes.
Yeah. And I would like to give a shout out to all of our VIP patrons, which are more like producers for us. I mean, they help us with show ideas and give us, critique what we've done and help us with stories and stuff. So
yeah, and we chat with them every month at our AMA if they're interested.
Yeah. So the first one is the one that we did the shout out for today, which is Alicia, yeah.
Carrie,
Becky,
Natalie,
Kim,
Ta,
Ernie,
Marisol,
Shayla,
Cindy,
Nicole,
Darnay,
Jessica,
Alice,
Austin,
Aaron,
Hope,
and Candy.
Yes. So that's all of them, and we really appreciate you guys for sticking with us. And we are so glad to bring you a 100th episode. We look forward to 899 more, right?
No, you're right. 899
more.
Something.
Yeah.
So there's math there. We're not math people, but
100 plus.
But if we get to 1,000, I don't know what we'll do. But
yeah,
we'll worry about that when we get there.
On the next episode of Ghostly, we will be talking about Tombstone. And it comes out August 31st. So you get 3 episodes of Ghostly in the month of August.
Yes.
And until next time, stay ghostly.
Bye.